There's a $34 billion battle raging in Western Australia, and it's making investors in one of Australia's largest resource projects very nervous. The huge Browse Basin gas project on the Kimberley coast is bigger than the Northwest Shelf, with 14 trillion cubic feet of gas reserves. Everything about the project had seemed on track until a bitter rearguard action commenced on the east coast involving some very familiar faces. Greg Hoy reports.
In East Coast financial hubs, formidable forces are gathering for a $34 billion development battle over access to the Kimberley region of northwest Australia, now being assessed for National Heritage listing. The Kimberley is a 420,000 square kilometre treasure trove of great beauty, traditional culture and resource riches. On top of 5 existing mines, there are now 15 resource development proposals on and offshore here.
Not only for LNG, but also for coal, for bauxite mining, for uranium mining. We're seeing a rush on the Kimberley, and I think most Australians would be alarmed.
Anywhere in the world it's recognised as a truly remarkable place.
Inflaming passions is the state and federal government insistence, backed by lead joint venture partner Woodside, that the best and most expeditious location to build a multi-billion-dollar LNG processing plant for the vast untapped Browse Basin gas field, located 400 kilometres offshore to the north, is right on the Kimberley coast's James Price Point above Broome, a site that it's repeatedly been said would deliver the greatest share of revenues to traditional landowners.
Through this project, we'll have opportunities, better opportunities through school, better health, land, better housing.
So it's not about the dollars. The point is what are we doing to the community? What are we doing to healthcare in the area? What are we doing with education in the area?
What a lot of nonsense. If the Aboriginal communities deserve extra money for education, for housing or whatever it is for, then give it to them.
He's the big businessman and now activist who helped depose the management of Guns Limited, radically altering in the process its $2 billion pulp mill in Tasmania. Now Geoffrey Cousins has turned his tenacious attention to the Kimberley gas plant's biggest defender, West Australian Premier Colin Barnett.
He is on the record as saying, and this is a direct quote from him, the Pilbara has supported Western Australia for the last 50 years. The Kimberley will support it for the next 50. In other words, he sees this as a place to industrialise.
There hasn't been a full and proper consideration of the alternatives to industrialisation of the West Kimberley coast, in our view, and yet that's required under federal environmental law.
Told of such criticisms, neither the West Australian Premier or Woodside would be interviewed, the Premier's office insisting 43 sites had been considered before selecting the Kimberley 3 years ago.
There are differing points of view, and I understand and respect that there are people who don't want to see any development in the Kimberley at all. However, what I would say to them, what alternative do you have for raising, protecting and giving young children a life?
Well, it was quite surprising the level of intervention that the government's had in this project.
Already amongst investment analysts, there is growing concern about the proposed Kimberley gas development.
The government has basically mandated that the joint venture partners must pursue a project at James Price Point. Usually the joint venture partners will be given some time to evaluate a number of different development options and narrow it down to the best commercial option before moving forward.
Odds are it won't go ahead, despite what the state government's saying, despite what Woodside is saying.
Woodside's partners include multinationals Chevron, BHP Billiton, BP and